This is an intermediate video on the 023 rebuild project. I was talking about the 017s and 018s. Well, I didn't have any examples, but this has been donated by a company in the top end of the county, so that's wonderful. It's a right mess, but it's perfect for what I want to show you. So the first thing is the oil pump's not working. Okay, so you've got to take the clutch off for a start, just to check that the oil pump drive is working properly. Now this saw is partially seized, so I had a bit of a job trying to get this clutch off. It's a matter of getting the piston somewhere near the top and putting either a piston stop or some starter cord down the plug hole, and then winding the piston to the top so it all jams up, and then down at the front, give it a belt. Anyway, I've done that just to save a load of grief. So let's zoom in. Just wind the clutch off. It's left hand thread, remember, but when you're undoing these, down at the front. That's the only thing you've got to remember. Now that's interesting. There is the oil pump drive, and that bit there engages with the notch in the clutch drum. Let's just have a look. So it looks like the worm is damaged. There's normally a groove at the top there to take this. I'll just find an example. Here's an example, and you can see that the plastic comes all the way to the top of the bush, so that drive quill gets a good grip, whereas on this one something's gone adrift and it's all melted and burnt away. So that's one reason why it wasn't pumping oil, but for most saws that's not the normal reason. So let's have a look. So on the 023 video I was talking about the oil pickup pipe. See if we can see. And it's different from the 023 in so much as it's just a pickup pipe that pushes in. To be able to get to that, you need to take the exoskeleton frame off. So I'll just show you briefly. Here's an 023, and they're sort of similar but not the same. So on the carburetor you have to undo these two nuts. Take the back cover off, flip the air filter off, and you need to remove this. That's those two nuts removed, and take that off. Now then, we've got the rods, the carburetor rods, and there's this rubber boot here that can be removed, so we take that off. Just pull the carburetor forward a bit to do that. To be able to take the choke off, the choke lever, it's a right pain unless you do it exactly the right way, because the rod itself is pushed in there and this ends in a slot, so effectively, and at the end it's bent. So you have to have it just on, and then pull the choke butterfly a bit so that the bent bit, there we go. Let me just see whether we can zoom right in to see that. So I've got this just on. Okay, and then you push the choke to the point where it's closed, and this little bit bent then comes out of that slot and the whole lever comes out. Otherwise it's a nightmare. So you've just got to get things in the right place, then it comes out very easily. The next thing to do is to remove this. So you take, there's a screw up in there, and it's either a slot or a torque head. You take this off, then you can remove the other carburetor control rod. Take the carburetor off. There'll be a fuel pipe underneath, which is just down there. That'll need to pop off. Take the carburetor off. So that's that done. Just a word of warning when you're removing the carburetor from these 017s, 018s. There's a cross shaft here. That's the control rods. This end, the housing, is really Mickey Mouse and very lightweight. So if you have to take it out, and try and avoid doing so, you have to pop it out the right way. If you give it sideward pressure, this is what happens. This little bit snapped off, and it should come all the way around here to there. When that's snapped off, unless you're very good at some form of repair engineering, the whole subframe, this frame here, is scrap, because that control rod is not then held in place. So having removed the carburetor, the next thing to do to remove this exoskeleton type frame is to remove the rubber mounts. One there and one there on this side. Get a screwdriver in there and just pull the rubber bung out. There's a screw in there, and there's one there, and there is one down there. So you remove this little buffer, take that out, there's a screw in there. I think there's only 3, I might be wrong, but you get the general idea. Okay, so I've used this 023 as an example because the 017 doesn't have it there, it's all been robbed away. So the next thing beyond that, let's just tidy up. Is to remove this. You have to take the fuel caps off to remove this, fuel and oil caps. So there are the screws removed. You need to lift that off, and then the whole starter comes out. What a mess. So to be able to get the oil tank out, you need to take the flywheel off. So we'll need a socket for that. So I had to lock the flywheel again to undo this nut. Okay. So we just take that off. But we don't take it off all the way. I've taken it off too far. You just want to effectively crack the nut. Let's wind it all the way back in. Right, and then we want to go about that much, about maybe 1/3 of a turn. Then we want a drift, and we put this drift on there. The nut is only just slightly undone, and this is shown also in the 026 rebuild. Just give it a crack. There we go, just one tap. If you wind the nut off too much, when you belt it, you'll damage all the threads, because you'll try and push the nut over the threads. But if there's a load of thread there, then it can't, and it puts the vibration down into the flywheel, and the flywheel comes off just like that. Easy, isn't it? There's the oil tank. Okay. and there's the pipe. So we need to hook that pipe out. See, it just pushes in. So it's not a lot of bottle really. And then this is the oil tank here. So the whole lot needs to come out. And it's normally absolutely full of muck. So there's the oil tank with the oil pickup pipe. And then just pop the oil pickup pipe out like this, and there's the filter, which is tight, and that filter looks fairly blocked, and this pipe feels quite stiff. So as I said before, change the pipe, clean the filter. The other part, and we've covered this in the 023, is the oil pumps down in there. Now on the early oil pumps, if you go and look at the 023 videos, the one with the oil pump's got a slot on it. Let's just use something as an example. The oil pump's got a slot on it, and it's just a plain slot. On the later ones, it's as if they've made the end of the slot wider to give a better feed for the oil. So what I've done in the past is just taken a 3-cornered file and just tapered the end of that slot so that the oil's got a better chance of getting up there. Hopefully, clean the filter, really clean it well. Change the pipe, clean all in there, put it back together, and you should then have an oiling, a chainsaw that oils the bar. Again, make sure that the drive quill is right and that the little worm gear is engaging with the oil pump.